Finnmaster has been a genuine specialist in recreational sports boats between 5 and about 9 metres over the years, and it's produced a whole variety of product lines. It does bow riders both in fiberglass and in aluminium as a really impressive Husky bow rider line. It also does console boats and pilot house boats, but over the years, certainly over recent years, one of the most successful and well received product lines it's done has been the T series, which goes from T6 to T9. Now that's their day cruiser range. Super stylish, super modern, plenty of light, very easy to enjoy. This is the flagship T9, and as you can see, you can spec that with a hard top for a bit of protection. But what if you want to enjoy Finnmaster's T9, but you want to use it all year round? You want extra versatility, a bit of extra weather protection, and you don't want to sacrifice that basic open boating experience. Well, what you need is not so much a hard top as a soft top, and that's what this is, the ST model, as you can see there, the T9 ST. It's very plain when you see it, actually, right from the start, that with these vast side windows, they really are working hard to preserve that open boating experience. And when you step on board and see the scale of the soft top that's built into this, let's just move across to the starboard side, and in we go. And it's partly closed at the moment. We'll sort that out. We'll open it up a little. You see it just slides back like so, all the way above the aft bench. There we go, and nestles into place. If I move back and give you a sense of perspective from that now, it is absolutely enormous. And what's particularly impressive is the fact that at the leading edge above the windscreen, there's no thick moulding to obstruct your view or make you feel hemmed in. It goes right the way forward to the screen's edge, and it just couldn't feel more open. The visibility is fantastic. If I nestle into the helm seat here and look all around, it might as well be an open boat. It's absolutely brilliant. We do have more substantial mouldings further aft, as you can see, but those have a neat little trick of their own, as I hope I'm going to show you with one hand. We just unlock the lower catch, unlock the upper catch, open out that hinge door, and inside we have these canvases which slide right the way around on these runners on both sides. So again, if I move further forward to give you a sense of the perspective of it, this entire aft section can be cordoned off right around the back end of that settee, so that this entire internal space can be used in the winter as well as in the summer, particularly if you choose to spec it with the optional diesel heating and air conditioning for summer, of course. Now, if we look at the specs of this boat here at the show, it suggests that you can rig it with a single 300 horsepower Yamaha outboard, or, as the showboat has here, a pair of F300s. But that doesn't seem to ring particularly true, and I've spoken to the guys here and they've confirmed it. I mean, after all, this is a 30-foot boat with a beam approaching 11 feet, nearly 4 metric tons dry. So twin 300s is the most common rig they anticipate using for this boat. You can have twin 250s as well, but with the twin 300s, they say it should be good for around about 46 knots. And with a fast cruise at around about 33 knots, it should also return fuel flow figures in the region of 3 litres per nautical mile, which is not bad at all for a boat of this scale. Those engines nestle in a nice deep engine well with twin platforms. In true Scandinavian fashion, we've got a stern anchor here on the port side. If I just step off and spin myself around, you'll see we've also got some really handy storage down in there. I think that ought to be drained, and probably isn't, because this is boat number 1 for the show. And we have something very similar, if I walk across here, on the starboard side, this time with the shore power connection, nicely cordoned off so you're not knocking it with your baggage. Again, it needs a drain hole there. And we have our, what do we have? Yeah, we got our petrol filler and our diesel filler for the diesel heating just there. Again, nicely tucked out of harm's way. And what's also interesting back here actually is the fact that we've got cork decking. Now that can be quite practical in a way. It's pretty grippy, it's warm underfoot even in the winter. But I just, on a luxury product like this, a €300,000 boat, you might anticipate that they would have used teak rather than cork to make it feel that bit more premium. Either way, some people love it, and it's apparently more ecologically sound than teak. So it certainly has its merits. But what I want to talk about back in this aft part of the cockpit here is the storage, actually. I mean, there's plenty of seating around this table, and this table, as you can see there, will slide down into place, and you have infills that will turn this entire section into a huge sunbathing pad. That table is operated from a little switch down behind this hatch there, you see. So it's not exactly accessible. It'd be good to see it mounted elsewhere so you could just get to it without a problem, but it functions well enough. And then if we go to the side here, you'll see how impressive the storage is. No catches, you simply put your fingers under, lift it up, give it a good pull, and up it comes on those strong rams cantilever hinges, and there's a good regularly shaped space in there. And there's the infill cushions for that aft table. And we have something very similar going on further aft. If I remove these cushions, lift this up, I think you're likely to be quite impressed by this actually. The whole unit comes up on super powerful rams. So you have storage right across the full beam of that boat. Ahead of that aft cockpit, we have another little seat on the starboard side, again with storage underneath. They've used that for covers there, but it's nice and deep. And we also have a little wet bar. And what I really like about this is this fridge. It kind of, because it's so up and down, so tall, vertical, it kind of looks like a wine fridge. But what I really like is the fact you can open it from this side, or if there are people in the way, you can open it from that side as well, which is a very neat trick, and I don't pretend to know how that operates exactly, but it's well worth doing on a compact boat like this. We also have a useful bit of storage in there, and if I lift up the lid up top, we have a little prep area, a draining board and a decent size of sink, plus a diesel stove, a single ring there. But you can of course opt for different forms of stovetop if you prefer electric or gas. And as we move further forward again still, you'll see that we have a little window built into the step that takes you up to the helm, so that suggests good things for the mid cabin down below in terms of views and light. And as we step up to the helm area, well, this entire zone uses the full beam of this boat, so there are no side decks, so as you would expect we use steps to step through the central part of the screen there. Incidentally, if you have the cover, the soft top, right over and in position, butting up against this upper edge, you need to just bring it back a few inches just so you can open this up. Now if we step across into the twin helm position, well, these are very attractive seats equipped with bolsters and lateral wings as you would want. They're very comfortable. I've already had a sit in those. They have fore and aft adjustment on these runners, and there's sufficient distance, as you can see, between those and the wet bar that you can shift them aft as well as forward. The wheel is also fully adjustable. I'll just slide myself in. As I say, the visibility is fantastic. We have a really generous plateau there for your MFDs with a little lip up above to try to cast a little bit of shade on top of them. No compass at all on this boat, incidentally, which is a peculiar omission given how high spec it is. So what we have here, particularly on the right hand side next to your throttles, is remarkably high spec. We have the Garmin remote just here next to an armrest, so you don't have to fiddle about when you're under the way and your arms moving up and down in lumpy swells, and you're not operating the touchscreen very effectively at all. Ahead of that we have the zip weight control, which is a little bit tucked out the way. You kind of have to crane to get your hand down and on top of the controls to operate it, so it's not perfect. But ahead of that we have the throttles, and that's right next to the joystick and the bow thruster, so that's all really nicely done. And none of it clutters up the rest of the dash. It's all where you'd want it on your right hand, so you can just keep your left hand firmly on that wheel and take charge of what's happening. Moving across to the port side, well, there's another co-pilot seat. It's almost big enough for two people. I reckon my boys could share that seat quite happily. It's a decent size, and it's pretty well spec'd too. It doesn't have the kind of offshore bolster and wing equipment of the primary helm seats, but it does have this nice little armrest, plus a good foot brace down below. And as I'm sitting here, if I just look to the side, you can see there is a good bit of space. It is almost a two-man seat, and yet there's still plenty of width in terms of that companionway to access the foredeck and the lower accommodation. We also have a couple of cup holders here, plus a neat little glove box in there with charging points and plenty of space for your phones and your iPads and your various bits and bobs, handbags and purses and things, wallets. Now if we move down below, this has always been a strength on the T series actually, the accommodation. Given that these are weekenders, it really does surprise. And one of the first elements of that is these long windows, quite low level. And it means that, well, it's not a great view here, but at the Düsseldorf Boat Show, but when you're on the water, you just see blue sea, and it's a delight on these boats. So it's good to see that remains intact. And of course, as the ST model, as the ST variant of the T9, it was always going to remain intact, because this is essentially the identical boat, and that's a good thing. So down here in the main kind of atrium, the access point, we have a two-man seat to the left-hand side here, with charging points there. And just up on the bulkhead there behind you, a little remote for the diesel heating, so you can control your temperature down here. We also have some impressive storage solutions here too. The steps open up so you can get little bits and bobs in there. And on the corner here, we've got a kind of wraparound door, so you get much wider aperture to access that, and it goes very deep. The woods are nice too. I can't work out whether that's a veneer or real timber, but the colour of it's lovely. It really bounces the light around a treat. And in the main part of the cabin, we have a really big bed here. I mean, that's a genuinely generous size. You could actually sleep sideways on that. I've actually put myself sideways, and as a 6-footer, that's not a problem at all. So you can orchestrate yourself in whatever direction you fancy there. It's certainly good enough for an extended cruise. We also have a little bit of storage underneath there. And if I lift up this mattress, we've got decent access to the various bits and bobs under there as well. The bow thruster, and that's the water tank further forward, which connects, of course, directly to the starboard heads compartment, and there that is, with mirrors on the back of the door there. And when you want the door open, it swings right round into a rubber stopper. There's just enough space, and it sits flush with that bulkhead so it doesn't get in the way. When we pop in here, the brightness is impressive. It's a decent size of window with an opening porthole, an electric toilet, and plenty of headroom when I sit down in here. We also have, of course, a shower fitting, so you can use this as a wet room. But oddly enough, on this particular boat, if I point you down the way and look at my feet, on this particular boat we seem to have no drains, so I would assume that's just an oversight which has yet to be remedied on boat number 1. Let's pop that back in position. As I say, light is very good in there, space is pretty good, and if I pop down and look aft, you'll see that the mid cabin occupies a pretty good footprint too. It's arranged fore and aft in the centre of the boat with plenty of storage on the port side. I'll open that up because it's really quite generous. You can fit plenty in there. And there's the cockpit window just upper level there, looking into the aft part of the cockpit. But interestingly, on the starboard side, which goes right over to the hull sides, there's no hull window, which is a bit of a shame because I've seen Finnmaster boats where the mid cabins use a hull window and give you a view of the horizon and the sea, and it would totally transform this space. I mean, it's a good size, good proportions, but without any kind of hull window, any view of the outside wells, it does feel just a tiny bit claustrophobic, I would think, to some. But certainly it's a very worthy second double berth there. And you cordon that off by means of a little privacy curtain that sweeps straight across. Now, if you're going to go to the trouble of designing a new roof system for a boat, well, firstly, you want that base boat to be worthwhile. And as the flagship of Finnmaster's award-winning T-Series, the T9 is exactly that. Secondly, you also want the roof system to be effective, to be versatile, to actually improve your day out on the water. And with its vast overhead aperture and its big side windows, it achieves exactly that. So the only real question is the price. Is it worth the extra outlay over the base boat? Well, the base T9 can be yours for €256,000. And here, the ST, the soft top model, can be yours for €296,000. That's an additional premium of €40,000. But given how much extra versatility, extra usability, extra practicality it buys you, it seems to me that that is extra money very well spent.